Hi, thanks for joining me to make pecan pie or pecan tarts. So I'm just starting by making the pastry. So into the bowl goes 100 grams of plain flour, and added to that is 60 grams of butter. And then you just want to cut the butter into the flour. Now you want the butter to be nice and cold from the fridge, chilled right down, and then you just cut the butter into little pieces like this. Then you can rub the butter into your flour. So you want to use the tips of your fingers and your thumbs, and you just rub the butter and flour together. So as you can see here, I've finished rubbing it in and I have a nice breadcrumb-like consistency. So now I'm going to add in the sugar, just granulated sugar, and you just want to mix that in. Just give that a rough mix. There's not a lot of sugar goes into sweet pastries because there's often a sweet filling. So you just want to rub that in. And now I'm just going to add in a nice egg yolk. This is a free-range egg from a local farm in Scotland. So lovely bright yellow colour. And I'm just going to start to stir that in with a knife. So you just start to work in the egg. You don't need to use a food processor for this. It doesn't take that long just to do by hand, but if you did have a food processor, you could use it. So just stirring it in, and then you just use your hand and you just start to mix it in. Now you may need to add a little more flour or a little bit of cold water just to make your pastry come to the right consistency. So mine hasn't needed any more water. In fact, it's just a little sticky. So I'm just going to add in a little flour. So that's me, I've got it out the bowl, and I'm just going to dust the surface and also just work in a little bit of extra flour. So again, just using the plain flour that you've used to add in and make your pastry with. So I'm just going to work a little bit of flour in. It doesn't need a lot of flour, it just needs some flour to make sure that it doesn't stick to either the rolling pin or your work surface. So I'm just working a little bit of flour in. And then I'm just spreading the flour out so it's easier to roll. Now I'm just going to roll out the pastry. You want to roll it fairly thin for pastry tarts. This is going to make 4 shallow tarts today, so it will make probably about 6 smaller tarts that are a bit deeper. And you can easily just double the recipe if you want to. And I'm just lifting it up and just adding a little bit of flour underneath just to make sure that when I start to use the cutter it's not going to stick. And just dusting it down. This is the largest cutter that I've got, so I'm just going to use that just to cut out the shapes. You can also use a bowl just to cut round if you don't have cutters, or a large mug or cup, depending on what pastry tin that you're going to use is like. So I'm just putting it in there. Now I've chilled these down in the fridge, and I'm just going to use a cocktail stick. You can use a cocktail stick or a fork just to put some little holes into your pastry, and this is called docking your pastry, and this stops it from having large bubbles when you bake it. And then it's baked blind in the oven. That just means baking it in the oven just for about 5 minutes, and that just starts the cooking process, so when you add your filling it doesn't leak out. So as I say, baked in the oven about 180 for about 5 minutes, not very long. And as you can see, that's what they're looking like now. So onto the filling. So I'm going to start off with my sugar. So just add the sugar in, that's 1/4 cup. And then I'm adding in the butter, that's been melted. Just give it a quick melt at a low temperature in the microwave. And this time it's a whole egg. So just putting the whole egg in. And it's about a 1/4 cup of golden syrup. And I'm just going to add this into the jug where I had the melted butter, and the melted butter is going to stop the golden syrup from sticking to the jug. So that's quite a handy tip if you're ever using either honey or golden syrup in a recipe. If you can put it into something that's been oiled first, it just helps it to release from where you've measured it out. So that's your golden syrup goes in. Now you can use corn syrup. We don't use corn syrup very often in the UK, so I'm using golden syrup today, but you can swap that out if you want. And then roughly about a teaspoon of vanilla extract or vanilla essence. And then these ingredients are just mixed together. So it's quite an easy recipe to make. So just stirring it all together. And then I'm just going to add in the nuts. So I've chopped the nuts, again, just by hand. It doesn't take that long just to cut them up. Before that, I'm just going to add in a little salt. This is a sea salt. And quite often the sweet recipes have just a little salt just to balance between all the sugar, and it helps to balance it out. So you're just adding in the nuts. So as I say, they're not cut very finely. You want them to be in reasonable sized pieces because you don't want them to be all crushed up. And then I'm just going to fill these cases. So as you can see, I've just filled the cases. I've got a little more mixture because they're quite a shallow case that I'm using today, but if you use a deeper pan, then you probably will have just about the right amount. So I've just added that in. And then I'm also just going to top them. I've topped them with a pecan. So these are then baked off, and they were really, really nice. So I hope you enjoyed the recipe, and I hope you subscribe. Thank you.